thank you to my panelists for being here. So I'm Gleb Beguin from Shopify. I work in the office of the president, working with some of our most strategic brands to make sure that they're successful on the platform. Come find me. We're doing AI talks in there as well. If you are on Shopify, I think many brands I've talked to today are. Happy to answer questions, get you any information you need. But today, I'm not going to talk about Shopify. If I start talking about Shopify or e-commerce, throw something at me. Because today, it's all about my panelists here. And today, it's really about community. And the panelists here, the leaders of the brands, they are representative of true community because these brands have stood throughout time by building rich and robust communities. Like who here says, hand me my Yeti? Anyone? Right? It's a real word, right? Or like I'm gonna wear my Tecovas today, right? Or even I'm going to do some scent blending or scent mixing, right? From Joe Malone, all the TikTokers and everybody, they're going online right now and they're blending different colognes, scents, and that is a new revolution. And that is built all the way through community. And that is truly something very, very powerful. So a quick introduction to our guest today on the far left here is Krista Dalton. Krista, give it a round of applause, from Tecovas. She is the CMO and CDO of the brand that turned cowboy boots into a cultural movement and built 50-plus retail locations on top of a D2C first model. She's equal parts brand storyteller, and she is using AI to transform the business in ways that people are only talking about right now. Let's give her a round of applause. Awesome. So first question for you, Krista. Tecovas went from selling boots online to building a Western lifestyle brand with 50-plus stores. At what point did you realize this wasn't just a commerce play, but rather a community play?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our stores, I don't know if any of you have had the chance to go to them, but they are such a wonderful experiential moment. And when I was first looking at Tecovas, the thing everyone told me was, I've been to your store. They gave me a margarita, and I loved it. And everybody I met didn't say like, I love your boots. They did. But they more so talked about the store experience, how wonderful our associates were, and what the experience of walking into it was like. Because Western, as it's grown in a wider popularity and brought in people who've never worn it before, can be kind of intimidating. Like with your very first pair of cowboy boots, how do you wear them? How do they fit? In our stores, welcome everyone. The example I recently got from a store associate was somebody walked in and was like, I'm going to Beyonce's Cowboy Carter. Can you just dress me? And they were like, absolutely. Let's go find things that make you feel comfortable and confident. And so I realized the community that is in the West space is so welcoming, so wants to bring this to other people. It wants to bring the culture to others. So that was when I really realized that, this is bigger than just selling a boot.
Absolutely. I was a little nervous buying my first pair of Annies for my wife a couple months ago. Now, on to Bill Neff. He leads marketing at Yeti, the brand that people have tattoos of on their arms. And something so beautiful that they've done is they've built an ambassador program with over 200 ambassadors that do things like fishing, camping, and they're not, Instagram influencers with millions of followers. So, Bill, tell me a little bit about that strategy and the math behind it, where you're looking at, ambassadors that have 8,000 followers versus, 100 million.
So I definitely think the way that we look at our ambassador team goes all the way back to the very beginning. And, I think we believe in the human network, and we believe that our product serves as a tool for a specific passion or pursuit that you may do. And at the beginning, it started with fishing, and that we were a fishing company. That was it. It wasn't even fishing, hunting. It was just fishing. And Flip Palette was an ambassador of ours. This is a television show, but for the most part, he was the one validating our product within the fishing space. And we've carried that through to all of our other communities, and we work in over 13 or 14 passion points where our product makes sense for that end user to use as a tool within their space. And so for us, it's always been about that human network of word of mouth. And so whenever I get someone who's like, hey, I love Yeti, I love the brand, I have my favorite cup or whatever, I always ask like, well, how did you learn about it? And generally speaking, it's from a friend or something like that. And so I truly believe that if you dominoed everything back in those word of mouth transactions, it can get all the way back to Flip Palette on almost every single person here and the way that it started. So that's what we do, and we do it at scale, but we find people who can be, relevant for our product within that pursuit, and we let the human network take over, as opposed to a digital platform that can get a lot of eyeballs on things really fast. So it's slower, but that's the philosophy we work in.
Absolutely. I remember the first time I brought a non-Yeti cooler with all my friends that have Yeti coolers to a camping trip. I've never felt so out of place. That's for sure. That's the network effect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, last but not least, we've got Kumkum Pinto, who is the Vice President of Product at Estee Lauder Companies, one of the largest beauty companies in the world, where she's sitting at the intersection of technology, data, and consumer experience across dozens of brands, each with their own community and identity. So the question for you, Kumkum, is when you're managing brands like MAC, Jo Malone, La Mer, Clinique, and Estee Lauder, each with their own deeply unique community, how are you making sure to protect those individual communities of the individual brands and doing it on a holistic level at such a big enterprise?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Obviously, the one thing that's very, very, sacred to Estee Lauder is the high-touch experience and the brand DNA. The one thing they'll tell you is never mess with the brand DNA, and always, think about your consumer. Your consumer should be able to experience you everywhere, like in a high touch way. And that's the thing that we always keep sacred. What we really try sharing as a corporation is the plumbing, the behind the scenes plumbing. How best do we look at our playbooks for categories? How best do we look at, if a brand wants to win in night, right? How is Estee Lauder leading the way, and how are other brands learning from it? So that's where we really look at data, reporting, measurement criteria as things which is shared, but brand DNA and communities are very, very sacred. But I think it's a very hard line to toe, because sometimes you want to share things, but as you share, you're like asking yourself, are you over unifying? And what's the right balance between over unifying and brand creativity? It's a learning experience every single day.
Absolutely. I think it's the night repair serum from Estee Lauder. That's why I look 18 years old. And of course, right, you go and you share it with another brand, and suddenly that secret sauce of the Estee Lauder night serum is a little bit gone. So I apologize. And now a question for everybody, a little bit of kind of a quick fire. For each of you, feel free to speak when you have an answer. Give us a moment of where you realized that community was essentially more powerful and more impactful than your marketing budget.
I've got one. We have a wildly enthusiastic group called Tecovas Enthusiasts, started on Facebook. We did not start this group. These are customers who've been with us since the beginning. They have so many opinions about the boots, the materials, the quality assurance, and the customer insights team rolls up to me, and working with them and being a part of them, we've reached out and said, hey, do you want to kind of give us your feedback? And these were like hour-long sessions with people who have spent money with us, and they were like, absolutely, I will give you any time you want. I want to tell you. And then they became evangelists because we were asking them questions. So it wasn't us. We didn't meet with them for an hour to be like, well, this is why we do it. Go tell people. We met with them to get feedback, to adjust, to like meet the needs of our most loyal customers. And they 10x'd and we didn't give them anything, by the way, for these interviews, but they were so thankful. And so watching the impact that listening to the community and responding to them had was incredible.
All right, I'll go. So probably two, but we've always felt it. Like we were when we started, we were poor. We didn't have any money to do marketing, but what we did was we had people who trusted our product, and that started to really move the needle, and people were finding it out. But Leanne Bakunis is sitting over there, and she runs all of our culinary community. But she started just doing beer and barbecue. And I'll never forget, and we weren't doing a lot of advertising, but for the barbecue community, she was aligning with all the top pit masters that were using our product. And I went to Memphis in May one year with her, which is a huge barbecue competition in Memphis. And it was like we owned the place. I mean, she was walking around like the mayor, but we weren't marketing. It was just this massive, word of mouth thing that Yeti is a trusted product within this barbecue space. So that was one time when I was like, this is unbelievable. Then the other time, which is a little more, it's just like really this happened and then this happened, so Travis Rice is a snowboarder. He's an ambassador of ours, and he was putting on this thing called Natural Selection. And generally speaking, for us, we don't spend a ton of money on things, but we support our ambassadors in their endeavors, because that's what we don't pay them a lot of money, but when they want to do something, we'll support it, and that's when we spend money. And he wanted to put on this snowboard competition, and he did it, and it was cool and awesome, but it was unbelievable how fast the shops in Europe were calling us. And we weren't in Europe yet. We weren't doing anything. But the amount of Europe inbound on like wanting to open Yeti, and it was we didn't want to go sponsor a snowboard competition to get into Europe. We wanted to support our ambassador. And so we did that. And then it started to ripple, and the phones are ringing off the hook to try and get involved in shops in Europe. So just those are just two examples.
Love it. Love it.
I think for me, it's how our brands, like Aveda as a brand, what it really stands for is something that has always been interesting. Similar to how Futico was, right? A lot of Aveda enthusiasts and the groups, it's not really marketing. They actually are educating other consumers. So the consumer to consumer education that I see across all forums, that is like very, very interesting with some of our iconic brands, specifically Aveda. And it just is so interesting that, we are reacting to that education. And so the consumer to consumer education is what is driving innovation within the company in the last 2 to 3 years. Has been very, very interesting to watch.
Wait, that's fascinating. Can I ask you a question? Can I, Gleb?
Yes.
Cool.
Please.
I feel also like your brand is such a legacy one that when I think of Estee Lauder, I actually think of my grandmother and I think of my mom, because they used the same, and it was the very first moisturizer. I used this yellow one in this little rectangle. And I remember feeling, this is going to sound silly, but like such a grown up when it was my turn to use this item, and how you like tap into that community and that sense of like, I don't know, there's a familial connection to it.
No, definitely, right? So I think I was just smiling when you said that, because every person you ever say Estee Lauder says, I remember this bottle on my grandma's, or my mother's thing. And my every aspiration was to be able to go ahead and use it. And that's why you will see there are things around our product packaging that hasn't changed in years. We make tweaks, but it's about the emotional connect. Or you'll see somebody from Clinique say a 3-step routine, right? And I know, on that, there are some brands that have reinvented themselves, like Clinique, because I think Moisture Surge has been one of the biggest comebacks for them and getting them the same kind of following. But I think that's what is the balance, is how do you still keep the emotional connect of what that brand means to you? Do not mess with that, but also how are you introducing new products? I think some, like Estee is doing that a little bit with their double wear collections and things like that, but you still need to keep some things that work the same.
Yeah, it's that Disney problem. Like the people who go to the parks like 30 times a year don't want them to change anything. And then their IOE team is like, but we need to modernize. And how do you do both while making the community happy? Sorry, I was fast.
No, that's awesome.
I've been on panels with Krista before, and she does do this.
I love this. I love this. I love this. We were talking about this yesterday about the House of, the House of Terror in Disneyland. It's now the Marvel ride, and I kind of miss that personally, And they changed something, but there are rides that they've never changed, and that's the nostalgia people love, for sure. Now, in the same topic of entertainment, Bill, you guys create documentaries, even documentaries about a lobster boat captain. In a world where it's short form content, 15 seconds of somebody showing a hair routine or somebody showing their outfit and boots that they're wearing, how do you justify the ROI of, long form content in such a world of people with ADD like me?
So we're a publicly traded company. ROI is very important to us. I'll just say that.
It's a good caveat.
But we don't honestly consider it much with those things, because we believe in the nature of storytelling, and we believe in humans. They get attracted to storytelling. But don't make any mistake. We do a ton of 15-second content that is out there on the social spheres. But when we really dig down into this longer storytelling format, it's really just a celebration of our people. And there's two outcomes that we want. One, we want people to just open their minds to things. I think today, specifically in everything, people are very closed-minded in the ways that they want to do stuff, and they're kind of afraid to try things or afraid to go out and experience new things because they have their way. And so this is just potentially allowing some vulnerability to go try something. And we've had ambassadors who are, hardcore against hunting, see some of our films and we'll say, I would love to actually try that. Understanding the sustainably hunting and, harvesting your own meat and those kind of things. And they open their minds to it. And the opening of their minds is what, if humans can do that more often, we really think that's good for everyone. And the other thing is just to celebrate the communities that we're in. So it's long format storytelling, because it takes time to tell those stories right and to give it the time. And then on the other side, we also believe that our consumer on the other end, if they can give us their time, like, we think that's the most valuable thing in the world. In an age where time is everything and you don't give yourself a lot of time to one thing, if we can get you to watch a film for 12 minutes, we believe that has lasting impressions on the brand. So the lobster boat was just a really awesome story. And we wanted to tell it. So that's how most of our stories come to life, is they come to us and we think they're really interesting and they inspire us, and we hope that they inspire other people. So
Absolutely. Do kind of what's right for you guys, and the community will appreciate it, and they'll tell the story continuously. I love that. And Krista, so Tecovas is rooted in Western identity. As you are, of course, expanding across different product lines, lifestyle categories, how do you make sure that you do not lose that community when kind of growing, expanding the catalog, and entering new markets?
I am at my heart a product person, and so I believe that there's a way for us to sell what people want without alienating the core customer. And that's sort of my problem as well is yours, is like, how do you stay true to who you were and why people loved you 10 years ago while expanding? And so what we've really chosen to do is keep the brand ethos of Honor the West, craft its future in all of our products. And as long as our products are as handmade and handcrafted as they are, no matter if that's jeans made in the last denim factory in the United States or our boots that are handmade in León, Mexico, we believe that our product kind of embodies the Western spirit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then speaking of maybe like spirit or, kind of such a, I guess, like iconic, long-standing brand, Kumkum, how do you kind of start to recognize when maybe there is some sort of community breakdown? Because being such a long-standing company, having multiple brands under your sphere and having to manage all of them together, right? It's a lot of work to understand, like, hey, maybe a community is going in a different direction because there's a new fad or a new mineral or something that folks are going to, where the community maybe shifts to a different brand that's not in the Estee Lauder portfolio. So what do you do to kind of stay on top of that?
So I think it's all about knowing your customer, right? So we are very, very close to everything that is voice of the customer. Whether it is, any feedback we get from a customer care centers, whether it is what are people posting about us in reviews, shares, social. I think we kind of mine all of that information. The whole idea is you have to start seeing signs of engagement decline, right? As it starts declining a little bit, you kind of know something's wrong because you've either gone ahead and, over indexed in some areas or you're losing trust. So the main signals we look for is engagement and loyalty. As we start seeing that starting to erode, we are like, okay, fine, what's going wrong? And that's why right now many of our brands actually have this entire thing where every week we look at how our VOC metrics are doing, how our loyalty overall is looking at, across D2C, retail, everything. Previously, we were very channel focused. Now we are taking a step back and saying, how are our brands really doing? What are people really saying about them? How are we reaching out and making that right? That's the main reason also we invest in. I don't know, many people know this. Most of our consumer care product agents are actually people who sold us products in stores. So we kind of bring them in so that they are actual experts. They understand, and that's the most important for us.
Absolutely, I love that, and maybe I'll use that to riff off of a question of kind of leaning into AI now, right? So when AI starts to go into places like customer service departments, how are you thinking about the friction or the battle between having people who used to work in stores that now are your customer service representatives and being able to get this voice of the customer, but then also being able to maybe get the voice of the customer at scale through AI?
I think I really walked into that question. So, because I think that's the exact battle right now that we are fighting. As you look at every other as AI is growing, you're kind of asking yourself, how do you kind of go ahead and use AI for containment? And at what point is your containment harming your consumer experiences? And I think that's the kind of battle. And where we are looking at it is we're trying to understand how could AI help bridge the gap between digital and physical. Like, how is it that you're using AI to proactively give your consumer enough information for them to understand your products, how best to use it, things like that. For example, on The Ordinary, we have a product AI, bot of sorts, an AI agent that allows you to ask questions around all of your, maybe you feel like you can use hyaluronic acid, but is it really right? You have a particular skin concern, you're using a particular routine, is it fine and everything else? And then at what point are you putting enough guardrails then to direct someone to speak to a human or go to our experience centers? And I'm not saying we've got it right, but that's the aspiration, is how do you use it as a way to give them enough information in a quality way that maybe previously they couldn't get consistently, and then how at the next level seamlessly you're transitioning them to a physical experience to get to the next level.
Yeah, having that as a multi-funnel approach, as top funnel is how do we get the right information to the right person so they don't even have to go to customer support. But if they do, then they're still going to that right person who knows all the right answers. Now, Krista, you built an AI agent that synthesizes 16 reports a week into a single brief for you. Walk us through kind of how you did that. What was your strategy behind it, and what's some of the payoff or some of the learnings that you've been able to get from it?
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked my team is here because actually I shared the agent that I built was 3 months ago, and I don't use him anymore because I have an AI chief of staff now who pulls my reports, and then I have co-working, and my team is actually working on building dashboards that just pull it so the reports don't have to be pulled anymore. They're directly connected to EDW. This is my nerdiest self coming to life. I told my team to cancel as many meetings last week as possible to dive into Claude to figure out how to speed up their work and how to build dashboards and use them. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. We're a private company, so our risk tolerance is much higher, I think, than both Bills and Kumkums. But the team was able to play and integrate into getting all the data we need. But I will tell you the most analog thing is I hate AI customer service. I ran a team of 1,300 customer service agents at Overstock, and people like asking humans, and they love that feeling of connection. And that moment when you call and you're like, I got a box, it's an 8x10 rug, it doesn't look like it's going to fit. And they're like, we folded in half, girl, you're fine. Like that moment of personal connection builds a relationship in a way that I think in AI that says, open the box first and tell me your order number, it becomes transactional and you don't build a community. And so I think there's barriers within AI because I think you're totally right. Tell them about the boot material, tell them how to care for it. But if they want to talk to a human, give them a human.
Absolutely.
Preachy.
Absolutely. No, that's totally right. I actually get in battles with AI agents daily. Sometimes I'm scared my AI is gonna come after me once in a while, you know. And Bill, speaking of kind of like automating really important processes and going back to long form content, etc., with the new tools available to everybody in terms of like AI editing, right? What is your perspective on leveraging AI to, make your content maybe faster, more cost effective? Have you thought about that, and really like what's the strategy around that for you guys?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, 30 years ago they were cutting film on and there was an evolution through editing machines and all sorts of. This is just an evolution of storytelling and the ability to do it faster. So we're not scared of AI at all. I mean, we know it's a tool and we want to lean into that and depending on where it goes, we'll just keep moving with it. And it's just technology as far as we're concerned. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, what is for each of you? What is one piece of advice to a founder in the room that you would say around a use case that is truly practical in the business for AI?
Create an AI chief of staff like Krista did.
Nice, yeah.
It was hard. Someone else did it for me. Mine is system. I'm gonna do a plug for something that I have no connection to. We stood up a company called Unwrap, which scrapes all of our social media. It connects and does voice to text of all of our phone calls, and then it scrapes our reviews, and then it sends me a report on Monday, and it's like, you have a spike in people who are, complaining about X. We had one week where 3 people said they weren't offered a drink at your store, and I forwarded it to our head of retail, and she was like, this is bullshit. I'm going to go call these stores and fix this. And it's voice of the customer at scale. And so, yeah, the company name is Unwrap, and they've been incredible for us.
Thanks for that. That sounds interesting. Honestly, for us, I mean, we see optimization, and we're a pretty big company now. We're about closing in on about $2 billion. And over the last 5 or 6 years, like the amount of product we have, the processes that have come into place, has really kind of not slowed us down, but certainly matured us, I guess. Leaning into all aspects, whether it's on the creative front, whether it's on the project management front, whether it's on, just learning how through earned media where people are interacting and where do you need to get your product in front of places that people are finding, answers from. For us, it's like every aspect of it, we're leaning into it. So.
Can I say?
But it's scary, quite
Yeah.
frankly. Like, that's the thing. So many people, I told someone yesterday, I was like, everybody's just waiting for our brains to absorb what we need to do and do it. And, Shane's sitting here and he's a creative director for us, runs our creative studio. And he was just in the same, he was like, I don't even know how to start this process. He just started the process. And it was kind of amazing how easy it was to get, they start coding for him, they start doing all this. We're trying to figure out how to make our PLP pages faster because we have so many products and they change colors and all sorts of stuff. And there's answers out there, but the only way to do it is like open the first email that came your way and you're like, what is this? Where is it going to go? 25 years ago, it's the same thing now. It's like, you just have to start moving into it.
And the other thing I would say is AI enhances skilled people. And so it's something I've been talking to my team about is like, they are experts in their areas and they think of how AI can help them. When you blindly trust AI, I think that's where I get worried it goes off the rails. So we have a couple of golden rules on our team, including like, how did you get here? And asking the chat to tell you more about how it got there and why it got there. And the other thing is we have to talk, our CTO loves generative AI. And he keeps sending me photos like, isn't this amazing? And I'm like, oh man, I wish I thought so. It
Like 17 fingers.
Yeah, well, even the ones without fingers, I'm like, it just looks a little odd. There's some uncanny valley shit that's happening that and so for us, our approach is Gen AI we're putting to the side for now because we want our marketing to be as handcrafted as our boots. And so we're really focusing on process and behind the scenes stuff because I just don't feel comfortable. Like the creative eye is just really unique and different.
Absolutely. You open the floodgates and then it gets like super crazy. Being at Shopify, I don't know if folks heard about Toby's memo where he basically told everybody we are now AI reflexive. So my pay is based on how much AI I use. So when you give that to a lot of people who are irresponsible, you get a lot of answers that are literally copy and paste from AI.
Did you hear what happened at Amazon this week?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the coders were also judged on how much code was written with AI, and then the code went wonky, and then they blamed the engineers. And I was like, oh man.
And then they're like, don't worry, we're now going to have a senior engineer actually look at the code, which they're probably going to look at it with AI, right? Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, speaking of, kind of changes and shifts in AI, something that's been like really talked about recently, and I know a lot of folks here sell, at CPG products and fashion products, et cetera, is agentic commerce, right? And I think that, we are not that far away from speaking to an agent to say like, hey, I need a 3-step skincare routine. And this agent does not give a crap about the community, right? It's just like, oh, I know Gleb. He's cost prohibitive or whatever, he likes to get a deal, so I'm just going to give him whatever's a deal, right? Which totally removes kind of this concept of what we're talking about of community. I would love to hear from all of you, like, how does that make you feel? Not to make this a therapy session, but, what's your first reaction there?
I don't think I totally agree. Yeah, because I think agentic commerce, there is agentic discovery before agentic commerce, correct? And I feel like agentic discovery is always around risk reduction.
Yes.
And if it's under risk reduction, they are looking for content, agents are looking for content which brings trust, that where people are trusting, where people are speaking about stuff. And so if you as a brand are really believe in what you stand for, your community believes in you, your community on their own, like the ambassador programs, are talking about you, whether long form or short form content, then I personally think the agent discovery will be more skewed towards you. And then the commerce is just like the end of it all.
Yeah, I'm just going to build on this a little bit, which is the number one way people use reviews is they sort it by 1 star to 5 star. And that's for risk reduction today because they want to understand it. What is transferring into agentic shopping in my mind is the discovery phase, in that I can say, I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old and I want a couch. Don't get me something white, get me something that will survive until they're 10. And it helps me narrow that 6-week research phase. But I do not think, and this might be like me being wrong, I'm open to that. I don't think people are ready to be like, find it and buy it. I think they're willing to find it. The buy it portion is still something that humans want to click. They like that moment. And so I think we're a little further from like the full agentic experience.
I can't wait for it, quite frankly. And the only reason why is because of the brand and the community out there. We're going to show up. When people are like, hey, what should I buy for my next fishing trip? What backpack should I use? We're going to show up. And we're going to show up because of the community, because we keep firing on that engine in the community and the trust of our products. I can't wait for this to happen, quite frankly, because to get out of the whole ad search Google game and like how many, I can't wait for the LLMs to take over and just go straight to the most trusted product that the person is finding. So
I also feel like there's a dude mentality to it as well. I think men are going to adopt it more to like actually be like, yeah, purchase whatever that tells me I should. And I think it'll be a really interesting bifurcation of shopping.
I can't wait for it.
And that's true, actually. The early data of ChatGPT referral links that we've tracked at Shopify is actually that men do a majority of the shopping through what ChatGPT is telling them. And surprisingly enough, number 1 category is health and wellness products. Number 2 is beauty. And then home.
But all of those require trust.
Exactly.
That's the solve that they have is like, hey, how do I use this product? How do I decorate my home? And how do I bring wellness into my life given who I am? And it can do a little bit more research for you than it could in a previous world.
More complex products where you need to do comparisons,
Yep.
decisions, etc. And that's a really good point, Bill, too, is that what ties everything back to how we started this entire conversation is that if you have a community, if you have that powerful brand, you can actually, even in a world where things get more automated and there's, agents kind of controlling your narrative a little bit, your narrative will still stick out there because you've worked on community. So, that would be a great closing, but I do have a few rapid fire questions. I'm gonna say it, and then whoever wants to answer it can answer. If anyone wants to riff on it, they can riff on it, and we'll quickly go through them right now. So, one of you, tell me a brand outside of your category that has the best community in the world and why.
What about I'll just say, for me, and they're much bigger now, but the way Lulu did it in the beginning was phenomenal. And I remember when it came on my radar and it was already boiling and percolating. I'm not really a yoga person, but the way they just dove into studio by studio by studio by studio was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Vancouver brand. Whoop whoop. Anyone else?
I'll go again. So, I think we work with CrossFit, but, and it may not be what everyone's into, but if you're into CrossFit, like the way that they melded their gyms together and that community comes together, it is phenomenal to see the way that they built that community in CrossFit. And I think a lot of people like Orange Theory now are all trying to tap into what they did, and it's been pretty amazing.
I actually will second it. Like CrossFit by far, is a great community, and I think it's about it's the huge community, but also the principles that they still stay true to are very, very interesting. And then obviously Yeti.
Oh, nice.
I second Yeti as well, but I would actually go with, and I don't know if this is cheating, but USAA insurance. It's given to military members and their children, and the way that they have really owned their ethos of who they are and the way they speak about it, and it feels like a gift. I think they've done really well, and then Patek Philippe has also done an incredible job with their marketing of you never own a Patek, you hold on to it for the next generation. That's a banger of a line. And so I think people who, again, I really love that generational hand down and that feeling of community, I guess, is really what resonates with me with both of them.
Absolutely. I joined a new cult today called High Rocks. Sorry,
Yeah.
a community.
That's a big one. That's a real one.
First time. Thank you. I did well, apparently. So everyone hears. Most overrated marketing tactic right now?
No, go ahead. I mean, influencers. I don't know how to say it in a nicer way. Micro influencers, huge. Love them. But like Kim Kardashian and paying her, especially with Gen Z, is so alienating now because Gen Z basically is like, get your bag, but like, I don't trust you. And so finding influencers who trust, but man, I get probably, 7 to 8 reach outs a day from an influencer or a manager of influencers. And the loyalty there is really transactional. And our response is typically like, I'm not going to pay you to post about it, but do you want some boots? And then we do that. And then if they post, it's fine. But I don't want people wearing my stuff if they don't genuinely love it. And so there's like an inauthenticity that I'm really afraid of with influencers.
Riffing on that a little bit, but more like seeding and sampling campaigns at scale, like it feels the same. Like you're not getting quality out there.
Yeah, that's closer to what I mean. Yeah.
I would say the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's super tempting, but if it isn't real, I mean, we pride ourselves on real stories of real people doing real things, and I just think it's saturated the social spaces at this point. So
I agree with you. I'd also say like working with a celebrity. This is probably controversial, but like think about Kendall Jenner. Like, do I really believe she's like walking around drinking like Pepsi and betting on sports? No. So just like having like a face of a celebrity say they love your thing. There's again, authenticity really matters, and Gen Z in particular is like very, very big on it. And so if you're gonna grow with them, you just got to find someone who actually likes what you're doing.
Absolutely. One final question. If you could change one thing about how brands think about community, what would it be?
Don't have an agenda. Like, just be with the community. Don't try and, like, you talk about culture, and it's like, we don't worry about culture because the community shapes culture. And if you're in the community, you're gonna be in the culture of the community. So if we really look at it like that, it was like we're not trying to get something out of the community. We're just a part of the community. And so that's what I would say.
I would say something similar, but don't treat community as a channel. Treat it as a product. Like actually invest in the community, help grow the community, evolve it as you do your product, not as a channel.
Like them as they are. Like, don't try to shape them and be like, no, guys, come in my direction. It's like, meet them where they're at.
Absolutely. So, with in the world today, with community, with commerce, with AI, I think the main thing and the main takeaway here is being authentic. Treat it as a brand, treat it as a product, invest in it, nurture it. Right, go with the flow sometimes. Right, and let that community build naturally. Because that's what's going to win, no matter whether it's an AI agent recommending your brand or whether it's somebody's talking to a chatbot or somebody's calling the service department. We want to make sure that your brands stick out because community really shapes that. So thank you, everyone.
Well said.
Thanks, Gleb.